Okay, good evening, everyone. I am Erin McGrath. Regardless of what it says in my little box, I'm not Tierney Jackson. I'm just borrowing her sort of ownership of this WebEx. But I'm Erin McGrath. I'm the Assistant Director of College Access and PK-12 Outreach at the State Council of Higher Education for Virginia, or SHEV. I'm very happy to be here with a panel of admissions experts this evening to talk about the next steps for the class of 2021. A very brief background before we jump in. SHEV and our partners, ECMC, VACRO, and VASFA, partner on the 1-2-3 Go initiative, which is Virginia's 3 steps to college. We've made it through the first 3 steps, College Nights in Virginia, Virginia College Application Week, and Super FAFSA project. And now we're in the decision-making phase. In Virginia, we celebrate Decision Day VA on or around May 1st each year. It's a time when students take concrete actions toward what their next step in life will be. It's a major step, and we want to make sure students have all the information they'll need to make the right decision for themselves. Tonight, I'll serve as a moderator, and I'll do my best to monitor the Q&A. You'll hear from Yoma Miller with Christopher Newport, Marshall McClung with Hampden-Sydney, Larry Wilson with Norfolk State, and to Carla Moore with ODU. And with that, I'll hand it over to Yoma Miller.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Yoma Miller, and I'm the Associate Director of Admission at Christopher Newport University. So Christopher Newport University is what we call a small to medium liberal arts and science institution. So what does all of that mean? Well, we're small to medium because we have 5,000 students. So, it's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's not too big, but not too small. And then also the liberal arts piece. I just always tell students that's fancy words for a liberal arts education. We really focus on not teaching you how to do just one thing, but teaching you about transferable skills that will help you in the workforce, will help you with gainful employment, but then also introduce you to the fine and performing arts and embrace those things, embrace other languages. So that's really some of the just talking points of what's liberal arts, what is a small to medium sized school? So that's who we are as Christopher Newport, a small to medium liberal arts and science institution.
I guess I'm up to bat. Hey everyone, my name is Marshall McClung. I currently serve as Associate Dean of Admission and Digital Media at Hampden-Sydney College. We are located in Farmville, Virginia. If you know what the state of Virginia looks like and imagine it as a dartboard, we are the bullseye. We're a very small college. We have about 1,000 students, and we are a college for men. We are one of 3 colleges left in the country that solely seek to educate young men. And we are also a classical liberal arts college as well. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Larry.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am Larry Wilson, and I bring you greetings from Norfolk State University, where I serve as the Associate Director of Undergraduate Admissions and Recruitment. Like all the others have stated, we are a small to medium college as well, slightly below 6,000 students. We are an HBCU and historically Black college and university, and we are located in Norfolk, Virginia. We're not too far from the beach, so if you've ever been to or experienced this, your toes in the sand at Virginia Beach, you bypass us by 15 to 20 minutes. So definitely a great place here in Norfolk, Virginia.
Sorry, everyone, I was trying to unmute. All right, so last but not least, to Carla Moore here, the Senior Admissions Counselor from Old Dominion University, also located in Norfolk, Virginia, just about 5 to 10 minutes west of Larry at Norfolk State. ODU is your largest public state institution on the panel this evening. We are mainly a STEM-H research school. So what that means is most of our students are interested in things that involve active lab work. Lots of engineers and scientists and people looking into health careers that want active and live research on a campus will often pick a larger state research institution. Also, you'll notice that the variance of the types of institutions on the panel. Again, I do represent the larger public state school. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into our content, and I'm going to toss it back to my colleague Yoma.
All right, so this is what we're calling our senior checklist. What should you be focusing on right now? So you might still be wondering, what college or university do I plan to attend? So, oh, can we go back?
Oh, I'm sorry, Yoma.
Sorry. All right, so you might be trying to figure out where you want to attend, and there are plenty of institutions that are still accepting applications. So don't just assume, oh, it's too late to apply to that school. Reach out to them and find out if they're still accepting applications, because plenty are. If you are in that area of narrowing down and you've applied to all of the schools that you wanted to, have you been able to visit those colleges and universities? And I would say contact those schools individually to learn about, are they offering campus tours? What are their COVID restrictions if they are offering in-person campus tours? Maybe you'll have to do a virtual visit. And if you have to do a virtual visit, tack on to that. Reach out, see if I can speak with faculty. Faculty are eager to meet with you on Zoom or Google Meets or whatever the case may be and talk to you about particular majors, intended fields of study. So the key theme here is reach out, reach out, reach out.
Absolutely. And I'll just jump right back in behind Yoma and just speak to, if you're still looking at applying to institutions, just be cognizant of the timeline, even though it may look a little different for each of us. You want to give yourself time to prepare. Even though your application may be coming in, late spring, early summer, remember the fall semester is right around the corner. So you're looking at August. You're still going to need time to get through some of those orientation processes. You're still going to need time to get your financial aid awarded. You're still going to need time to discover if the campus is a good fit for you. And I know, speaking from a larger angle, you're dealing with more, more hoops, more students, more processes. It's not maybe as easy as the smaller institutions to just come through or have your application immediately looked at. So I just wanted to give you, both sides of the coin if you're thinking about joining into that hurdle at this time. Anything else, Larry or Marshall, on that point? Good to go.
All right, I think we can go to the next slide.
Awesome.
All right, so have you received your financial aid and scholarship letter? So that kind of piggybacks with what Carla was just saying. Those are processes and you have to give time for that. So of course, finances can be a huge factor in the decision process. And I always say it's worth a try. If you need to, appeal for more financial aid or seek out other scholarship opportunities if necessary. If your schools that you're applying to aren't offering any more scholarships, look in your local community. There are tons of scholarships that go unnoticed, and it's a shame. And it might be $1,000 scholarship or a $500 scholarship. But I tell you one thing, all of those scholarships add up. And so by simply filling out their application and doing their essays, some of them, are only a couple hundred words. By doing that, you could be allowing yourself the opportunity to have a lot more financial option. So don't just focus on the school scholarships, also focus on those local area scholarships.
Absolutely. And I also would just add to that as well. If you're thinking about what financial aid packages may look like from each institution, it's going to look different. Please do not be intimidated by what one package says versus another package, or, the way that a scholarship is allotted to you, when it's allotted to you. You just want to make sure that you are aware of options, and, you can still sit and talk with an admissions officer or with a financial aid representative to kind of work out what those final numbers will look like for you and how that's going to apply to this specific institution versus your aid award from any of the other institutions, which may look slightly different.
And then if you are ready to make your final decision about a school, officially accept that offer of admission. So follow those instructions, whether it was in your admission letter or they sent you an email or something like that. Follow their process for that. So accept that offer of admission, pay any mandatory deposits or orientation fees, and then respectfully decline your offers of admission at other schools. That really helps all of us, because if you have no intentions of attending that school, go ahead and let us know that we're no longer on your list of options. And again, I would say respectfully decline those offers of admission to other schools.
Anything else on this one, crew?
Sure. I'll just jump in there real quick and say, regarding financial aid, hopefully you all have established at least one connection at a school that you're working with, on the financial aid component. Even if that's someone in the admission office, use them as your main contact point and reach out to that person and say, hey, listen, can you work with me to go over this financial aid award letter? I just want to understand it better. They'll be able to connect you with somebody in financial aid, or they may be able to go over it well enough on their own. But regardless, I would start with that person that you know and use them as a bridge to get to the necessary answers. Unfortunately, we don't have necessarily a standardized format that our awards come in. They're all a little bit different in their own ways. So when you're looking at a bunch of different things that look completely different, we get that it can be a bit confusing. Reach out to those schools and just say, hey, can you break this down and help me understand what I'm looking at here, right? Can be a little more helpful in the long run. I'll also just tack on to the letting us know respectfully, you're not going to hurt our feelings. It is a bummer to work with you for a year plus sometimes, but it's better for us to know, don't have your parents do it. This is that time to grow up, do your own thing, start taking ownership. Reach out to us on your own, even if it's a text or a quick phone call or an email. Hey, I'm headed elsewhere. Most of the time, we're just going to say good luck to you. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Marshall. All right. So I'm going to kick us off on this slide, and I'll toss to Larry next. What about the committed folks, the seniors who have already decided where they're going? This is what's going to happen. I've already found home. I'm into these institutions. Now that you're committed, go for it, Larry.
I was going to say, we are vitally excited that you have found a place, and we hope that majority of you have picked one of the schools that are listed here tonight. But if you are committed, like it's been said before, please make sure you respectively decline the offer. And for those of you who have that number one top choice, believe it or not, sometimes when that offer is declined, it opens up other opportunities for you as a student at that particular institution. It releases some financial aid, it releases some scholarships. So we're circling back with that again. So declining the offer, although some of us will cry that you're not coming with us, we still will, again, wish you great success and wherever you go. Because again, our goal is for you to go somewhere.
Absolutely. And the second point on the slide, of course, is, have you received your aid award? I know sometimes we get excited, we've said this is where we're going, dream school, ready to go, committed, but there's a piece missing. I haven't seen that aid award. I haven't reviewed it. I haven't had a realistic conversation about it. So, does the financial aid office have everything you need? Every verification piece of paper, every, tax return, every whatever is needed, is everything in place? Because you don't want to get to the finish line and then realize, man, the funding just isn't there for me to be able to go to this institution. Yes,
definitely. That's vitally important because you have to have a way to fund your education. There are a lot of trees out, but I hadn't seen money falling from them. So you definitely wanted to come from somewhere that's a viable source to help fund your education. So yeah, I definitely agree. Make sure we find those resources and make sure that everything is in line with those particular schools or that school that we're saying that we're committed to, because there may be a document missing that may hinder. And one thing I will, for all the Virginia, definitely make sure you've taken a look at your residency, your domicile, to make sure you're actually coded as a resident. Sometimes students, when you're completing these applications, you may think that it's asking a question on the application about tax documents for you, and it's really your parent, and you answer that question, it sends you into a whirlwind, a spiral of being what they consider an out-of-state student. So make sure we're looking at those things and paying attention to those award letters as well for that particular purpose as well. Because it's a good savings of $10,000 or some odd thousand that you can save on tuition just by being in-state resident.
Absolutely. And then also, have you researched other scholarship opportunities? I always tell students it doesn't stop. Just because you've been accepted or maybe you've, decided on where you're going, actually gaining more funding doesn't stop. You know, you can still be looking at the different websites for our institutions, like Yoma stated earlier, looking at the community, at banks, at credit unions, at, you know, churches. I mean, anything and every dollar counts. So even if you're going into freshman year at the university, you still want to think long-term, you know, next semester, next year, can I get some funding? Is there other scholarships that are on my campus that I can look for?
I think
So we
this
just
is a
want to
good time.
reiterate that. Mhm.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to reach out to some financial aid offices. They don't have much to do right now. They love to hear from you. Don't tell them I sent you though. But definitely reach out to your financial aid office because seriously, they will like to, you know, talk to you now versus dealing with some of those issues later. There may be some funds, and I'm sure everyone can attest from some stories that there are millions, sometimes dollars given back to certain donors because students are not completing a simple application. Then you may want to find out with your financial aid office too, because we're all different, that some financial aid office have a unified form and then some have individual forms for scholarships. So definitely go and tell them to show you the money.
I like that, Larry. Show them the money. Also, to piggyback on what we stated, seniors, you absolutely should have, or hopefully have had a chance to visit a campus of your choice. I know it's been tough. You know, we've been in a year of COVID now, and not every institution was opening up to campus visitors at the same time. Some still aren't, some have. You know, it may look very different at our various institutions. You know, we really want you to feel like it's home. We want you to put feet on the campus, walk around, maybe connect with an ambassador or a current student, you know, maybe connect with someone in admissions or orientation or athletics or whatever it takes for you to really make that connection for you and your family. And that way you can see if this feels like home. Is this a community that I want to be a part of, you know, for the next 4 or more years? So I encourage you to look at the sites and see how you can connect with on-campus visits. Mhm.
Definitely. Everybody does it different. I mean, some people are, like you say, are offering the in-person, some are offering virtual. Some of us have, you know, the virtual tour already sitting there waiting. So definitely connect with them. You know, I like to share with my students or students I come in contact with in general is that see if you can see yourself being admissible to the university, doing well, thriving at the university, but also graduating from that university. So, you know, make sure it's the right fit. You know, women are different shoes. You know, y'all want to fit, look a certain way. Men, you know, same thing. You know, make sure it fits because it's nothing like being at a place and not being successful because it just doesn't feel right. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity to visit the school in some format.
And then lastly, on this slide, where will you be living? I know that's a big deal for, you know, seniors and families that are making this transition. You know, are you going to be moving out and moving on to campus and living in a residence hall? Is that mandatory for the institution you're going to? Are you going to be commuting? You know, are you going to be learning online? Is this going to be a hybrid situation, a part-time, a full-time? There's so many different ways that you can cultivate this college experience now with all of the technology and the options that are out there for various campus. So, you know, it's important to do things like decide if you're going to be on campus. Did you do a housing app? I had someone ask today, when's move-in? I'm so excited. I found a roommate, but she hadn't done her housing app. So it's like, where are we going to put you? Where are you going to be living? So super important. You'll notice at some campuses, you must be on campus. It's a thing where you have to do that. Other campuses, it's not. So that's something complete. And if you have the opportunity to connect with that roommate, you know, go ahead and connect with them.
I was going to chime in with that, Carla. Yeah, do your research on what schools, what are their housing policies. For example, at Christopher Newport University, we're high residential. You have to live on our campus your freshman, your sophomore, and your junior year. That is a very unique aspect of Christopher Newport University. But then there are other schools who are only guaranteeing housing for your freshman year. So don't just look at housing for the first year. Look ahead as well. How long am I required to live on this institution's campus? And how long does this campus provide housing as an option for me? So I would definitely look beyond just that freshman year, think long term of what are my living arrangements going to look like on that individual campus.
Absolutely.
I'll throw in one
Mhm.
more point too, and kind of try and tie it all together. Similar to Yoma at CNU, Hampden-Sydney, I mean, 96 or so % of our guys live on campus all 4 years. So we are, I mean, proper residential campus. What I would say too is, don't think that financial aid stops necessarily like in the financial aid office through scholarships or through your community. One thing for me that was extremely helpful in paying for my college education was being a resident advisor. And most colleges are going to pay you to do that. At Hampden-Sydney, the room payment from the room and board was taken care of. So when you're looking at saving that type of money, yeah, it's a job, but think of it as a work study, right? You're not necessarily dedicating 3 hours in one day to something, you're dedicating 24/7 to it. However, the perks may change one way or another. But I would also say, if you're seeking out campus employment, let that be one of the first things you do when you arrive on campus, because those jobs tend to go pretty quick unless you're covering the 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. morning gym shift, working the front desk. Not too many people want that one.
Yeah, I think you covered it. Each campus is different, like we before stated, as far as ours is concerned. Is there a radius? If you're going to stay home with us, if you're within a 20 to 30-mile radius of our campus, it's mandatory for our students, freshmen, to live on campus. So that's a vital importance to know that, what is the radius? I'm sorry, outside of the 30-mile radius. I said it backwards. Forgive me. But outside of the 30-mile radius, it's mandatory, although you can still drive in. We mandate. So just knowing some of those things will help you to navigate, to look ahead and know what you need to do.
Absolutely. And then there's ODU that lets you commute every day. You can be off campus anytime, on campus anytime. So you have these different institutions, but it's good to know that you could be commuter or you could be residential. So definitely vital to your experience. Some other points to tack on, of course, orientation. Students often want to know, well, how do I register for classes? What's next? They get excited. They're like, I got a roommate, I got housing, I got financial aid. Well, how do I get classes? So what does orientation look like? That's something you definitely want to understand, especially in this time of COVID. Will the orientation on that campus be in person? Will it be completely virtual? Will you be required to meet with someone? Will you be required to have a phone call or a Zoom or a login? Who are you talking to? Is there going to be any placement tests? There's so many questions that go around orienting a new student, especially a new freshman to a campus. And it looks very different depending on what institution you're aiming at. So you'll definitely want to be looking for these vital things and asking those questions. Larry, next point on emails. I know this is your point.
Yes. Check your email. There are a lot of opportunities by checking your email, and it may differ from your institution. With us, once you get to a certain level, I'm sure others, we transition you from your personal, begin that transition to using the campus email. So make sure you're staying connected. And if you are missing some stuff, type in the school's name in the search box just to make sure you didn't miss anything. And of course, save us so that you can get stuff going forward. But check your junk folders. We're sending a lot of information out to you. And believe it or not, I had a couple students the other day. It was like, hey, I don't know how to check my portal, or hey, I didn't get the scholarship. And we're like, hey, did you check your email? Then as soon as we say that and tell them what to do, oh, yeah, it's here. So don't miss out on the opportunity. And I would venture to say, stay connected with us. We're trying to communicate with you. I like that line. We're still trying to communicate with you. And I would also venture to go a little further and say, get connected on social media. Sometimes we have those hashtags, 25 type of deal going on right now. So definitely stay connected. Sometimes some universities will allow students to be a part or create their own class social medias, and that's where they're interacting, and again, sharing with other students who are coming in with you. So again, stay connected with email, stay connected on social media as well.
Absolutely. And the next point is on majors. Students come and they ask, I'm coming to your school. Am I in nursing? Am I in engineering? Am I in these specific programs? I know specifically for Old Dominion, we do not admit first-year freshmen into specific programs. Our goal is just to get you to ODU, to get you oriented through the doors, matriculated, and then we can talk about what it takes to gain a certain declaration for a major, what GPA is needed, what classes are needed, that will look different. At some institutions, you're applying to a major. So you're saying, I want to come here for XYZ, or I am specifically putting in a spot for engineering or for health science, or, it'll look totally different. So I think it's important to just understand, what does curriculum look like? Are you not expected to be in that major until your sophomore year? Is there another application that's needed for you to get into that major? That way you're not confused or thinking you're already in the major, but in fact you're not. So that's something that I definitely wanted to add on to this slide as well. And last point, of course, just AP, IB, dual enrollment. I know a lot of you probably watching the webinar or logged into the webinar dual enrolled while you're in high school. You get a lot of dual enrollment credit, or you get some AP or IB scores, and you're wondering, how do I get them to the college, or is it going to give me credit? So that's something you'll want to check with those individual colleges on as well. And our last point, Larry, you want to bring it home?
Hey, hang in there. Don't give up. And graduation is in view. We realize that this is a unique year and has been for the students, but definitely, this class has endured everything that's been going on with COVID. They're switching over to the virtual learning. And of course, it's been a learning curve for us for what we do. So we kind of understand, but also have a lot more empathy and sympathy for what you're doing. So hang in there. You're almost at the finish line. Don't give up, because we do not want to rescind your decision. We do not.
Absolutely.
So quitting is not an option. And I think everybody probably can concur with that.
All right, I'm going to toss it over to my colleague, Marshall, to go over a little bit of precautions, deferrals, and gap year stuff. Marshall, take it away.
Thank you, ma'am. So here's the thing. I know this is the elephant in the room. I know that COVID has affected all of us in radically different ways, but without doubt, it's affected everyone. And it certainly affected the college selection process, the search process, the visit process, the financial aid. I mean, it's affected everything, right? So how is it going to affect you arriving to campus, right? Ultimately, I think we all met before this, we all kind of discussed, it's going to affect every school differently, right? So our main piece of advice to you all, reach out once you've made that decision, or if you're still trying to decide, right? Maybe you're between three schools, school A, B, and C, and you're wondering, like, how is COVID going to affect me at school B versus school C? Reach out to those schools and say, hey, I was curious. For example, are you all going to require vaccines for students arriving in the fall, or aren't you, right? Because maybe that matters to you and your family. Different schools are going to have different policies on this. And so making sure that you are informed and educated is going to be the key. So can't stress that enough. Same with procedures. What is orientation going to look like? Are they going to require that people, let's say you have gotten vaccinated with you and your family. Maybe it'd be a good idea to bring proof of that to orientation, right? It may still be a masked event, right? We're obviously still learning as we go, but I think a lot of schools are taking those necessary precautions. So it's best if you don't show up surprised, right? So do your research, reach out to somebody in an admission office, and just try and get the information that you're looking for. Two pieces of advice, and this is one that I always tell students in the process. You know you best, right? So as you're going through this process and trying to decide, do I want to go to a campus, at the tail end, hopefully tail end of a pandemic, maybe still in the midst of, but is that something that's going to work for me, or do I want to take some time off, right? We talk a lot about deferring your offer of admission or taking a proper gap year. What does that look like at each school, right? For Hampden-Sydney, at least, if you want to defer for a year, we still need you to reapply that second go around. Same with proper gap years, right? And one thing that I'll say, at least from our side, we like to see that you've done something with that time, whether that's been working professionally, part or full-time, or maybe you did a study abroad style experience, you went and saw a part of the world. I think from the college admission side of things, if you're going to say, hey, I'm going to take a year before I go, I think most of us don't want it to be a vacation necessarily, right? We want to see that you've done something productive with that time. You haven't sat around and just played Call of Duty Warzone every day for 8 hours a day. Like, how have you improved yourself? What are you going to be bringing to our campuses in a valuable way? So talk with your family, talk with your parents, talk with somebody close to you, and work those things out and see what the best thing is for you. I've always described the college process. It's 50% gut and it's 50% finances, right? And so reconciling those two things and making sure that it feels right over here on the logical side, right? Like, does it make sense fiscally? But on the other side, does it feel right? Does it just, and I know that's why the college decision is so tough, because it's tough to quantify what feels right, right? You can't really put numbers to it. Yeah, do they have my major? Sure. Do they have this club I want? Yeah, they don't, but maybe I could start on. Ultimately, does it feel right? If it does, it probably is. Just, a heads up. Again, I know we have said it over and over, but reach out. Like, and again, don't let your parents do it. Be the one who takes lead. Maybe have your mom write some questions out for you, but give us a call yourself. Ultimately, you're going to be the one going to class next fall, not your parents. You're going to be the one living with a roommate, not your parents. So take those action steps and start doing this stuff on your own. Your parents will appreciate it. Just a heads up, when you start taking lead, they're going to thank you. So reach out, see what each school's policies are going to be. If you've committed to school A and you haven't heard what their plans are going to be, reach out. I have a feeling, and I think we all on this panel can agree, some of them might not have answers yet. I know Hampden-Sydney has not fully set a hard and fast policy on what vaccinations are going to look like on our campus yet. So it's going to depend school to school, but some schools may not have that information in hand yet. You may just have to wait a little bit. Anything else y'all want to add to this?
I was just going to say, go ahead,
sorry.
Mary.
I just wanted to chime in and just kind of piggyback what Marshall said about reaching out on your own behalf, representing yourself in this process. This is good practice for advocating for yourself. You are going to have these conversations with your professors and with your roommates and things like that. So this is good practice to advocate for yourself in this process for sure. And I know that you all don't really talk on the phone very much in the traditional sense that we talk on the phone. So it's good practice for you to have like these professional conversations via telephone that you probably otherwise wouldn't have. And us as admission teams, we are eager to speak with you. So I think we're a good group to practice with for sure. So don't be scared to give us a call,
We're okay, right? Like, you guys have seen this. We're fine. You can talk to us on the phone. It's all good.
Also, I wanted to chime in and just say, have a realistic expectation of what things look like now. Your classmates from 3 years ago, you may not have their experience. Their onboarding looked different. Their events look different. Their graduation ceremony looked different. So we just want to make sure we have realistic expectations and that we're going onto these campuses knowing, okay, this may be the way it's going to be here for now. This is what we have to embrace now for this process. Or, it looks a little different, but, we can still work with it. So we just want to have realistic expectations that we can't just turn the clock back 5 years ago and have the same process we had for, the class of whatever in the past. We have to kind of set up this new platform of this is how we're going to move forward.
And if I can add, I would come from a different perspective. And, parents, let's land a little bit. Let's trust the process. Let's trust that you've instilled in your child to allow them to speak now. Give them a voice. And so I, say to a lot of parents, we all have helicopter parents. We know what they look like. We know what they feel like. And parents, what that's like to be one. But trust that your student will do and represent you well in speaking to us. And again, you're there to be the coach. But let's help push them to answer those questions, because if you don't do it now, guess who's calling you while they're in school for everything that happens? And so I would, lean and say, parents, trust that you've done a great job with your student to, and help push them to talk to us and talk to the campus and ask those questions now. Save you some time and headache later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Larry, for bringing that home and landing everybody. So with that being said, Marshall, was there any more on your?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I kind of forgot this slide existed. All right, let me just make sure. Yeah.
Make sure you've covered it. Mm-hmm.
Our school is going to require you to get vaccinated. How is that going to affect you? Classes, right? Another thing to consider. Hampden-Sydney, we've been in person since the fall, right? Since this last fall. It's been a bit hybrid if students, if they test positive or if they've been in touch with somebody, right? They have to do it hybrid. So I think most schools who have been in person primarily still have to allow for that option to students who are sick. But on the whole, like, what is it going to look like for you? Do a little research. You'll figure it out pretty quickly, right? Again, masking requirements. What is that going to look like in the fall? If you are taking a gap year, again, to that end, have that conversation with the admission office sooner rather than later. Have that conversation yesterday, right? Because it's going to help them move forward with figuring out what the class is going to look like and making sure that you're in a good position come a year down the road, right? Like I said, every school is going to handle that process a little bit differently. And then deposit extensions. I didn't really touch on this, but some schools may work with you financially. Like if the coronavirus has impacted your family in the immediate nature and getting that enrollment deposit together by May 1 just isn't a reality, have that conversation with the admission office. A lot of them can work with you to extend that deadline. A lot of schools extended that deadline last year outright. And I don't know that I've seen any do that outright this year, but that may be coming. Who knows? But it's something, just keep your eyes on the internet, like watch out for schools' websites. They're going to update you. Again, to Larry's original point, keep an eye on your email, specifically your junk email folders. But again, just call us. Like, that's the easiest way to figure it out this fast. Just give us a call. We'll tell you.
Awesome. Thank you, Marshall, for driving that home. And with that being said, we wanted to make sure that we leave time for you. Of course, any questions that you want to know or anything we may have forgotten to touch on, we want to make sure we turn that over to our host, Erin, for any questions.
Right. So luckily, as everyone's digesting all this awesome information, feel free to put any questions in the chat or the Q&A. In the meantime, when folks registered for this webinar, they asked some questions. And one is, let's see here if I can grab a good one for us. Where do I go for help with housing or roommate issues? I guess if sometimes it's not a match. Any experience or thoughts on that question?
Residential housing office.
Yeah. Well, and it may depend school to school, right? Like we haven't sent out any housing information yet to our guys because we always wait until we have the class together, because we know all of our freshmen are going to be living on campus together. We wait until we've got our whole group and then we send that information out. When it comes to that, if you have questions about it, obviously I would use the admission office as that initial point just to make sure you're going to the right place. Because if you were to reach out to our housing office, they're just going to tell you, hey, it's not time for you yet. But if you call us, we'll make sure to tell you, hey, don't reach out to them yet. It's on its way. Just pump the brakes a little bit and you'll be fine. As far as roommate, I'm a big fan of random roommates personally. I had one my freshman year. He and I, we got along fine. We lived together, but I think it's a great learning experience in how to interact with somebody that you might not fully click with, right? And I think that's a win in learning how to be an adult. When you get a job, there are going to be people who you work with who you may not click with, but you don't just get to go to your boss and go, hey, can you get rid of this person? Because I don't really like them. It's like, no, you have to learn how to work with somebody, right? Who you may not see eye to eye with. It's the same with a roommate. So I'm a big fan of trying to get over that hurdle, learn how to be, one-on-one with someone that you may not quite click with. I think on the opposite side, if you do click with this person, hey, you got a new best friend, right? It's a win-win from my point of view. I don't know. You guys can argue with me if you agree, but that's my take on roommates.
Well, and Marshall, I'm sure from your experience of being a resident assistant, you probably had some times where you were the mediator between some students. So that's another factor, is like try to work it out together. There is always the possibility that your resident assistant will help work through things. But I think just don't try to throw in the towel immediately and get a new roommate or anything like that. I think that it's really, I can't agree with Marshall enough about working through those things, coming up with compromise. It is really introducing you to being around and interacting with people who come from totally different environment than yourself. So I don't think you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you don't try to work through some of those things.
Couldn't agree more.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay, I see a question in the chat. To learn more about work study, would I have to talk to the financial aid office, or does another office usually handle that?
So again, that may be a school dependent thing. I know with us in our students' financial aid packages, we will award a federal work study to some students, and that means that we're essentially guaranteeing them work on campus through their tuition package. That may vary from school to school. And let's say if that's something that isn't built into your financial aid package, but you want it to be, it's something I would reach out to, early on once you arrive on campus. For us, we have someone in our business office who sends out an email to all of the students at the beginning of the semester. They basically send a school-wide email and say, hey, these are the jobs available on campus. If you are interested, here's how to apply. Simple as that. So again, we're trying to train you to keep an eye on your email, because once you become a college student, that's the primary means of communication, right? Whether that's from professors or key offices on campus, keep an eye on that email. But it's a pretty straightforward job application with most colleges, at least I think, right? Is that the case for you guys? It's how it works for us.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit about it from the state school side. With Old Dominion, you're actually being awarded work study through the FAFSA. So it's federal work study. It's not necessarily that we can assign it just because of the budgets and everything, but you can also apply for just an on-campus job. So, if you just wanted to work within a department, we have also what's called a learn and earn program, where you're working specifically at a job task or a different area, whether it's library services, dining services, financial aid, career services, and you're placed in that office to train with them for however many hours towards that money or that allotment. So you'll want to be, clear on federal work study, how much am I getting for the semester or for the year? What positions are available on the campus. Generally, you'll be told through, like Marshall said, his business office. For us, it would be career development or the actual financial aid office. So they would kind of help place you in these different job placements towards that allotment of money.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough that even if you are not in the federal work study program, there's plenty of opportunities to work on campus. And I think it's really important to try to get an on-campus job, because we know what your main focus is. You're here to be a student. That's your priority, is to graduate and get that degree. So when you work at the grocery store or you wait tables down the road, they don't care about your English paper or your math test. But because we know that your main focus is school, I think that as employers of current students, we're going to help you through those things. Of course, be transparent and communicate with us about that. But I think that if you must get a job, try to get a job on campus where we know that your ultimate goal is your schoolwork.
For sure. Tutoring, a lot of schools will pay you to be a tutor if you're strong enough in a certain subject area, right? Just depends. But keep an eye out and reach out to, normally admission offices can tell you where to find that information, but you're probably not going to find it out until you're on campus, right?
Great. It looks like we got a message from Luca who asked the question saying, thank you so much. So question answered. Got another question. Once we get on campus, how do we get involved and meet people?
I love it. You have to, oh, sorry. I feel like I keep answering. If one of you guys wants to take it.
Hey,
Oh, okay. I think you have to get uncomfortable. Like, let's say you go to a dining hall for the first time and you don't know that. Maybe you're at a campus where no one from your high school went, and it's a big old room with a lot of tables, and you see a bunch of people eating together. It's a whole lot easier to sit alone, right? It's a whole lot easier to just walk up to that table and have lunch by yourself and hope that someone comes to you. I think sometimes you just have to get a little more uncomfortable and go sit down with some people and just start talking. Hey, I'm Marshall. Good to meet you guys. Tell me about yourselves. Here's where I'm from. I mean, it can be awkward, but I think it's only awkward if you make it awkward, right? My grandmother gave me a piece of advice before I went to college, and she, I wasn't really involved in high school. I played in a hardcore punk band and skateboarded, and that was it. And my grandmother, she sat me down and she said, listen, take advantage of every opportunity presented to you and squeeze it like a sponge. So when it comes to getting involved, it's really just as simple as what am I interested in and how can I take that interest and make an involvement, right? So if you're interested in, whatever it may be, a sport on the side and you're not actually playing at the competitive level, get involved in a club sport. If it's, I would just say you just got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and seek it out. It's choosing not to do the easy thing, because the easy thing is sitting in your room, right? Choosing to leave your room and go to a mixer or a club event. I think you just have to choose to do it. I don't know, it seems like a very non-answer, but it really isn't. It's not that complex. A lot of orientation programs will have that like meeting someone part built in. You will be interacting with new students that you're going to see every day. Like start talking to them then, right?
I would, venture, that you made some great points. And of course, because the orientations aren't in person right now, being, a part of the social media, like I first stated earlier, being a part of those social media type of groups that are for your class for that particular school are great as well, because it'll allow you to interact. And then also seeing if some universities are offering admitted student type of events. We're hosting one tonight. That's a way for you to be, again, engaged and get a chance to meet other people in persons that may be from your area, that may be a good warmer, to warm up. Hey, you're from my hometown type of deal. But like Mark said, definitely just sitting down with other people, conversing with them and finding out where they're from, what they're doing, meeting new people. You'll find that they may become your long life friend. And a lot of us can attest to that from our college years. Someone we never knew are now, we're godparents, we've been in weddings and all those good things. So yeah, definitely do that.
Well, and keep in mind, everyone's in the same position as you. They just hide it better, right? It's a matter of just getting out of your comfort zone, breaking the ice, and making the first move. As much as I hate to compare it to dating, it kind of is like that. You gotta just, hey, how's it going? Want to be friends? Cool. No, that's okay. The worst thing you get told is no, right?
Right.
Okay, terrific. I feel like I could use some of this advice just in my life as a 40-something. Okay. Here's sort of a more technical question. What is the next step after committing to my university of choice?
I can kind of kick off that one. Well, your next step is probably going to be a series of steps after you commit. One of the main things that Larry and I kind of hit on after you commit is, checking the communications. What's next in terms of, okay, do I need to register for an orientation? You know, do I need to secure housing or complete a housing application? You know, do I need to accept my financial aid package or scholarships that I'm being offered? Are there health records that I need to look into? Do I need to provide any sort of health record, or like Marshall was saying, vaccinations, things of that sort? You know, have I created all of my logins? Do I have my ODU email set up and my portal? And there's going to be a multitude of steps. I think it's not just a one thing and then you wait. You're going to be consistently through the summer into the fall doing things. You know, you're going to have deadlines. You'll want to organize yourself so that you know, okay, on this day, I'm going to be registering for my classes, meeting with my advisor. On this day, I'm going to get my housing assignment. On this day, I'm going to, you know, buy a parking pass if I'm going to be commuting. On this day, I'm going to, you know, check in with my roommate. So you want to start getting yourself organized through the summer so that you can start to get all of these next steps done. It won't just be a step, it'll be steps that you'll have to do, leading you all the way up into the fall.
Yeah, definitely follow, like I said, again, like we forced it again, touch base with your school, contact them, take a look at the website. Some of us have given you what we call a checklist of things that are, right there in front of you. There are things that you could be doing. So definitely check with your schools and just see, what that checklist look like for each school. Because, we all have a generic way of things, but then there may be some things that are earmarked and specific for that particular school that they want you to take care of prior to coming.
I would recommend putting your checklist into Google Calendar or into a Google Doc where you can share it with your parents or guardian, because there are some things that, I don't know about my doctor's appointments for immunizations, or I'm not going to pay for my own parking pass. Mom and dad are going to pay for it. So maybe having a document that is shared with your parents or your guardian, and everyone can keep to date what's been taken care of. Have a note section on, oh, mom called on May 15th about this, and I emailed someone about that. And so I think that having that document, that shared document where people in the family can just work together through some of that process. We did talk about, yes, advocate for yourself and everything like that, but there are going to be some things that you'll need some help with. And so having that shared document where everyone can kind of strike off what they did is always super helpful, I think.
That's a killer idea. I've never thought about that.
That is great. Yeah. Coining that, I'm taking that one back too.
Love that, Yoma.
Seriously.
I'm telling you.
That's great.
All right. How about we field one more question? And you all touched on this a little bit already, but I feel like in working with students, it's come up a lot. Can I earn additional scholarships after becoming a student? Any more thoughts on that idea?
Answer is yes. There are some opportunities for scholarships. There are various endowment scholarships from universities and some other things that yearly may come in that are new, that are fresh, to say, hey, we had a couple that came in for some current students, and it touched a little bit of incoming freshmen, but even this year, there's some things that were added for us. So yes, you can. The goal is to stay connected to your school. Check your email. Check your email. Make sure you're checking your email, because a lot of those things are sent in our financial aid office. They're speaking to students and realizing that they're missing opportunities because they didn't check their email. And then the other thing, if I can add to go beyond it, is after you get it, don't forget to say thank you. Thank you for that gift when you get that scholarship, because again, a lot of people are forgetting to say thank you. And that's all they need sometimes to seal the deal for you, is just to say thanks.
And I would just reiterate, oh, go ahead, Marshall.
I was just going to say, you could keep in mind too, if you're looking at internships, a lot of career services offices will have their own separate funding, right, for internship opportunities. Like maybe you're doing an unpaid internship in Washington, D.C. You got a 3-month lease to cover. I mean, one, it's either going to be extremely expensive, or two, it's going to be tough enough to find, right, at a cheap, affordable rate. Sometimes those offices will be able to help you out with those experiences. I mean, I think it never hurts to ask. So if it's something you're interested in, start asking the people on your campus who would be able to answer that question. And that may be the financial aid office, that may be the career services office. It's just going to depend, right? Housing, maybe it's I want to be an RA. How do I make that work, and what does that look like as far as financial savings? Again, finding those ways, like meal plans, right? Maybe a college is going to require that you be on an unlimited meal plan your freshman year, but as you go up in classes, you get these new options that are lower in cost because you're not eating there, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. Okay, how do I get on this lower meal plan to save a little bit of money there? Again, it's just asking those questions.
And I was just going to chime in and say, right behind Marshall, the funding search never stops. You're always looking for additional funding. You're always looking for, opportunities to work or intern or research or study abroad or do something that's going to earn you some extra dollars and some time and save somewhere. So don't think that, after you get into the university that your financial journey stops. If anything, you're going to be open to more opportunities because now you're in a major. Now you know about the campus community. Now you know how the jobs work. Now you know who the professors are, you know the community. So you'll have even more opportunities to earn scholarships or jobs through various steps of your college career.
I mean, shoot, if you're the entrepreneurial minded student already, or even if you're not, like, use that to your advantage. I mean, a lot of college students are looking for safe rides on the weekend. Drive for Uber on the weekends, right? I mean, there's this like cost reward analysis you have to do, but if you want to spend your Saturday night having fun, you can do that, or you could spend your Saturday night making money helping other people have fun, right? Driving for Uber or Lyft. I mean, it's really how do you want to dedicate those disposable hours that we all get, right? That's all I got, though.
It's a lot, and it's been great. And I really want to thank each of you for joining us this evening and sharing all just years of experience, all the different scenarios you walked us through. I learned so much. I know our audience did too. So thank you so much to Carla, Marshall, Larry, and Yoma, and to your institutions. And yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Thank you. We
All right.
appreciate
Thank
all
y'all
of
so
you.
much for coming,
Have a great
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
and we wish you
Bye-bye.
all well. Wherever
Yeah.
you
Bye,
go.
guys.